We gonna buck the status quo. No ranks, no chains, just unity. One tribe, one light, one destiny. No ranks, no chains, just unity. One tribe, one light, one destiny. Bucking the status quo. We gonna buck the status quo. Oh, bucking the status quo. We gonna buck the status quo. Bucking the status quo. We gonna buck the status quo. Oh, bucking the status quo. We gonna buck the status quo. Bucking the status quo. We gonna buck the status quo. Oh, bucking the status quo. We gonna buck the status quo. Bucking the status quo. We gonna buck the status quo. Oh, bucking the status quo. We gonna buck the status quo.
All right. Will, my man, how you doing today?
Another beautiful Friday here in St. Louis.
Gorgeous.
I'm starting to think there's something to the podcast live streaming on Fridays and the weather.
100%.
I'm starting to think you may be a weather wizard.
Oh, I wish.
Yeah.
I wish. Yeah, beautiful day outside, and I hope everybody's getting excited for the weekend. We are definitely looking forward to it here at Grunt Style Foundation. As usual, I am Hugh, and I am here with Will, the Executive Director of the Grunt Style Foundation. And Will, we are going to start off with a bang. So,
yeah, man.
What do you got?
We have got so much stuff going on, man. There's so much activity going on. Foundation is, of course, we've got our integration event that's coming up in the second week of September. We'll talk about that some probably a little later. But I thought we'd start off today by, Tim and the guys up at Grunt Style got a little frisky over this whole business going on down in Texas with this, what used to be SB3 that Governor Abbott vetoed. And for those that weren't following what SB3 is, that is a bill that essentially makes CBD or any hemp products, you would be unable to purchase them anywhere outside of a dispensary, which there is none in Texas. So it would just basically ban them outright.
CBD, ban CBD?
The hemp stuff. So any of the full spectrum. So I don't know, maybe there's some gas station CBD down there or something that might be so low that it might slip through the cracks. But what it does is it destroys the entire industry. That bill were to go through in Texas, that's an insanely large industry with an insanely large population of employees that are working in that industry. So yeah, that bill would crush that. And of course it makes an exemption for THC infused beverages that are made from the alcohol. So just no weird coincidence. The alcohol industry and the dispensary industry seem to be taking the same play all over the country. I'm engaged here in St. Louis County because they can't make any headway. We beat it in the state capital in Jefferson City this past session of Congress. And so now we're seeing it pop up at the St. Louis County level. So I have to go back out again. I've already went and addressed the county council here a couple of weeks back.
Okay.
And, staked our claim on that. And then now I've got to go back again this upcoming Tuesday. So we'll be doing another open community engagement is what they're calling it.
Yeah.
So I'll be going up and speaking on behalf of the VFW and Grunt Style Foundation. So wow, how weird is that?
Yeah, okay, so let me get this straight. In Texas, they want to ban full spectrum CBD, which helps
anything that has THC that's infused into it. So you can, hemp can be THCA that's legal if you go to the hemp and these hemp businesses that aren't dispensaries where you can buy THCA. You'll see them sometime with like Kratom. You'll see them with all these different. It's just a weird loophole, man. They've got because of the federal scheduling of cannabis as Schedule 1, they came out with this thing called the Farm Bill in 2018 that said this is the threshold of allowable THC in any hemp product. Anything that is above that level is no bueno. So that's kind of been the regulating principle. What the industry responded to was they started coming up with all these creative ways to increase THC levels in these hemp products. So they are intoxicating. But a lot of people, like in Texas, where, cannabis, there's no medicinal marijuana except for this program they have called the Teacup, which is not at all able to support the demand and need down there. Then you just have a lot of people that are veterans, especially our population, are very loath to go get a medicinal marijuana card to even try to engage in that program, even though it's not big enough to sustain the need there in Texas. They're afraid of losing, going on a registry or losing their Second Amendment rights of gun ownership is one of the big points. There's a whole bunch of other points that are involved in that. But Texas isn't a cannabis state. So that hemp industry is what's it's kind of the norm down there. So that's the battle. And these same industry lobbyists are doing the same type of work. It's the same characters over and over. It's the alcohol industry, and it is the dispensary industry. So let me put this into like a real world scenario so people can understand. So I use CBD. It's, I have inflammation from my toxicity issues. You can't get any pain reliever that's worth a damn that's not going to make you a junkie. And mine's chronic and long term, so I'm certainly not going to go down the road of opioids. That's just not going to happen. So I find great therapeutic value in full spectrum CBD oil products.
Totally.
Well, if that bill in Missouri would have passed, which is the clone of what's going on in Texas and Arkansas and Oklahoma and Kentucky and Tennessee and Florida and California, the industries are doing this full court press across the country. And if that were to have passed here, and if this county bill were to go through that the St. Louis County is trying to do, well, now any of these products have to be sold in a dispensary. So it's still legal if you're a hemp farmer in Missouri, and there's a lot of them, like our friend John Grady over at Slap Happy Hemp and folks like that. You can still farm your product, but you can only sell it to dispensaries inside the state. And just coincidentally, these dispensaries already have their own brand of CBD products that they're selling. So you're free to grow it. You just can't sell it. And if you can find somebody that's willing to, then good on you. But nobody's going to do that. So anyhow, that's kind of what's been going on down in Texas. But Texas, that charge has been being led by the Lieutenant Governor of Texas, Dan Patrick, which if you've ever seen the old movie Footloose from back in the 80s, where they had the old crotchety preacher man that just didn't want those kids to dance, and Kevin Bacon had to come to town and show them the way. This guy's kind of the cannabis hemp industry's version of that character from the Footloose movie. That would be old Dan Patrick. So anyhow, Governor Abbott vetoed that SB 3 bill, killed it, and so now they're going to reapproach it as this SB 5. And so then we had the whole drama with the gerrymandering stuff going on in Texas, and the Democrats walked out, and so that kind of held it. So that really put the focus on, getting the state, the districting realigned. So the hemp part of the bill looked like that may have dropped off, but there's really been a redoubling of effort to make that happen. So that really kind of brought out some of the old style grunt style attitude on there. Those guys have engaged that. Tim put together a pretty interesting video that's now blowing up around the internet, and it's a specific campaign, so we thought we would roll that for the crowd today. We'll start off with the Go Eat a Dick campaign. So
years ago, we told Mark Zuckerberg to go eat a dick. And guess what? That campaign lit the internet on fire. Why? Because sometimes the only proper response to dickish behavior is to call it for what it is. And right now, the crown prince of dickery isn't in Silicon Valley. It's sitting right here in Texas, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick. This guy decided that veterans don't deserve access to hemp products, alternative, safe options that keep us off opioids. You know, the same opioids that are killing 22 of us every goddamn day. But no, Danny Boy would rather play morality police than protect the men and women who actually fought for this country. Why? Because apparently helping veterans manage pain without getting hooked on Big Pharma's dope is just too much freedom for him and his cronies to handle. So, Dan Patrick, from every veteran you spat on with this policy, and from every brother and sister who's fought like hell to stay alive without being drowned in pills, go eat a dick. You don't like it? That's too bad. Neither do we. And for all those that are on our side of the fence, use hashtag #GoEatADick. GEED for short, and show Dan Patrick how much of a dick he really is.
Statement.
That is a statement. So yeah, that's the campaign rolling around. You can see the from the video. There's a special shirt that's the GEED shirt, and the Grunt Style Foundation will receive a portion of the proceeds of every shirt sold to go ahead and help fund our efforts on the advocacy side of working on this important bill, because the cannabis and hemp is just a really interesting topic overall.
Yep.
We Paige Feege's a dear friend and mentor, to those of us here in the foundation working on
Charlotte's Web, yeah.
She is the lady that really created Charlotte's Web, or CBD.
She brought CBD to the mainstream.
Well, to the creation, right then. It was just ideation stuff from the Israelis.
Helping children, right?
Her daughter, Charlotte, had a very rare form of epilepsy, and she was seizing for like 45 minutes out of every hour, and they were just kind of waiting down the minutes on before that would take her. And so they had exhausted every other option. They'd gone through every seizure medication that there is known to man, and without effect. And she had learned about CBD and the benefits of that. And she worked with the Israelis, and then the dispensary marijuana stuff became legal there in Colorado. And so they made some allowances and helped her create what we know as CBD. And it was the full spectrum. And that was after the first administration to Charlotte stopped it.
Yep.
And that was back around 2014, 2015. Just a crazy story, man. There was people and veterans and just, civilians, people that were dealing with these types of things, having to go to Colorado because that's the only place that was legal.
Sure.
And I was working back at the Sergeant Sullivan Center in D.C. back in those days. And, we were involved at that point where we had people, we were fighting on the issue of mefloquine neurotoxicity, which is an anti-malarial pill that causes brain damage. And it causes a lot of these bad seizures. And the only thing that was effective in treating that was this full spectrum CBD,
CBD, yeah.
like the Charlotte's Web strain stuff. And so we were helping, point people to Colorado. Hadn't met Paige at that time, but she was already, the beginning stages of becoming this folk hero character. But anyhow, yeah, she's awesome, man. She was at an integration actually last year teaching about it, and she's been engaged in several of our Reverent Warriors events where we've had Paige come and talk, and she remains a very powerful advocate in this space, still speaking all over the country. So,
absolutely. And so this Texas situation, the alcohol industry is threatened by the CBD, and so it needs to make that illegal in order to protect their revenue, or how does all that work?
Sort of. So the alcohol industry has been taking a huge hit since marijuana has been legalized across a bunch of different states, and you're seeing a pretty big hit to the revenue in the alcohol industry. And so, surprise, the alcohol distributors all stand up their own THC beverages. So what's going on in the bill?
Got it.
Every other form of CBD or these cannabis hemp products are now not able to be sold pretty much at all. But hey, you can still buy your THC infused beverages. That's the allowance.
As long as you get it from an alcohol distributor that's already an established, existing,
pretty much.
So it's kind of inside ball.
It's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
And it just, it's just a weird coincidence that the politicians pushing this in Texas are all bought and paid for and owned by the alcohol industry.
Well, they have a lot of lobbying. Power.
Yeah,
so.
It's gross, man. It's gross. Because so on one hand, what do you want? You want to take the opioids, get hooked on that, and whenever they pull you off of that, you gotta go source fentanyl.
Yeah.
And then we know where that goes. Or hey, maybe you're on a psychotropic medication, or like in my case, I have incredible inflammation problems from all the heavy metals that I had from my tour in Iraq, and I'm working on that today, man. I've just started. I'm in week 2 of a new detox protocol with a local. Functional medicine guy.
Yeah, you told me about that. That's awesome.
I'm feeling great, man. I have felt better in the last couple of days than I have felt in weeks. So,
fantastic.
And I've got about 10 more weeks of this protocol, so I'm super excited to see what we look like at the end of it. But, for folks that don't have access to that kind of thing, and it took me a lot of years to find that, so, and I'm pretty far forward on the tip of the spear tracking that stuff down.
Sure.
It's hard for me. So CBD is an incredibly valuable tool in our toolbox.
Yeah, I know my family uses it for insomnia.
Yeah.
If trouble sleeping or anything like that. It's more natural, and it's much better than these pharmaceuticals that are prescribed for that have a lot of side effects. There haven't been any reported negative side effects from the CBD stuff. So
no, and it's ridiculous, and it's all propaganda and fear mongering and stuff like. I mean, it's the campaigns are crazy. They're like, there's the case of little Timmy Johnson, who did 5 marijuanas and threw himself in front of a train.
Isn't that how they went after a lot of this stuff in the 60s, was with those kind of fearful stories that then everyone still to this day remembers these crazy fear-led stories about plants?
Yeah, it goes back even further than that, with the whole reefer madness and the devil's lettuce and all that, yeah.
Sure. And that worked out really well for the alcohol distributors, right?
Weird that always it's weird that the you can't have natural plants, but hey, what you can have is an isolated compound that's suspended in petroleum. Go figure. And we call that allopathic medicine. But it all dates back. If you're really interested in it, I'd definitely encourage people to do some digging around on the internet and get back to the history of all that. Because what it really boils down to, man, is Rockefeller in about 1913 created the allopathic industry as he figured out a new path for something to do with petroleum, which is a byproduct of his oil from the Standard Oil Company. Prior to that, they were suspending compounds, at least the Germans were, in coal tar. So the science wasn't there yet to make full use of, really pulling out all the compounds, but they had a good job to strip simple things like aspirin and, stuff like that. That's kind of where all that started. And so, as science progressed, well, the die had already been cast. And if you weren't on board with the allopathic train studying in these schools that were founded by Rockefeller, teaching a method of medicine that goes back to his petroleum products, well, then you're a quack. And so now here we are with the FDA. If you want to move cannabis into more of the forefront, well, where it has to have rescheduling, that's important because right now it's Schedule 1. So for Schedule 1 to do the clinical studies, that costs a ton of money that you have to coincidentally pay the FDA. So,
Sure.
and you can't patent it. So who's going to spend that kind of money to do the research on a Schedule 1? So that it's just a mechanical political game is what it is.
Right. And, when I was in the corporate strategy world, we studied pretty much, I went through the corporate, pipeline of MBA, WashU, going through all the different certification and training courses within strategy consulting, working at several different huge Fortune 500 companies. And it's pretty much what I learned in the strategy space was it was the smartest folks from all the business schools in the U.S., all working 24/7, crazy long hours to try to figure out how to protect revenue and create new revenue streams. And you use anything that you can get your hands on or anything that you're able to change. So if there's laws that you're able to change to open up new revenue streams or to protect revenue by closing off competitors' revenue streams, you absolutely use those. It's just like the art of war. It's just like going to war, corporation to corporation, and then corporations will get together when there's new startup threats. When there's threats, small threats that come at them, they find ways to get together to protect against that so we can continue to have a battle, but we box everybody else out, right?
It's where it all drives, man.
Yeah. And so seeing that at play now at scale with a lot of different industries that we're involved with these different plant medicines that have been helping veterans, it's fascinating to watch from the other side of the table and know exactly what's happening behind the scene.
Yeah, and it's just insidious, man. I mean, it's like, okay, we're here, our population, veterans, we are now in a situation where all roads lead to mental health treatment through the VA. We get 68% of all veterans in the VHA healthcare system that are on these psychotropic meds.
Everybody's just put on meds all the time.
Put on meds all the time.
It's happened to me. It's happened to you.
Yeah, and that's how these folks are trained.
Yes.
They're trained on that, and they do not know how. They're not trained on titration. They're not trained on
for you to get off your meds.
Yeah, and they don't want you to have informed consent. They don't want to. That is literally one of the battles that we are in the middle of. We got Derek Blumke that runs our Work Right for Change program, and he's currently eyeball deep in that fight because of what we're asking for is informed consent. At least let people know what the potential problems are that they're going to encounter if they go on these things. And the resistance is coming from the fact of, well, if we tell them, then less people will take them. That's where it gets crazy.
If you tell me the truth about how this might affect me, then I might decide to go with a more holistic option.
Yes.
And we don't want that.
That's correct.
That's terrifying.
That's literally what is going on. And we are in there. We're in the trenches swinging, man. And as you can see from our nice little guide video that Tim put together, we don't play these games quite the way the average bear plays these games. We just choose not to play the games. We like to just speak our truth and call it out. And let's talk about the science and the facts, and let's cut through all the big interest. And one thing we have going for us, coming from the veteran space, it's very hard to demonize us in broad stroke brushes. It's just not as effective against the veteran community, playing those kind of dirty tactics.
Sure. Yeah, it's the whole thing has been interesting, and we also have some other news in from Texas, which is they just approved $50 million for ibogaine,
right?
Which is and it's a plant medicine that I just pulled some data that a tightly monitored clinical trial recently at Stanford, focusing on veterans with PTSD, showed 88% reduction in PTSD symptoms with ibogaine. And
first time application.
Yeah, right.
No withdrawals for those that are on opioids, man. None.
Yep. And then an 87% reduction in depression and an 81% reduction in anxiety 1 month post that ibogaine treatment.
Yes.
So numbers like this have never been seen in the mental health space ever. And Texas has decided to put $50 million behind testing that out.
Yes.
And I know a couple other states have too. However, that has to be a massive, massive threat to my corporate strategy buddies. I used to work in the pharmaceutical industry. So my buddy's in the corporate pharmaceutical game doing the strategy and revenue protection over there. This has got to be terrifying because you would have veterans essentially transitioning off of their SSRIs and these psychotropic medications that they've been put on that they can't get off of.
And alcohol
opioids.
and
Right.
all this stuff.
Like one veteran could have 5 to 10 different prescriptions,
Yes.
and all of those revenue channels would get cut off at the same time.
Yes.
But our country would be so much better off
So
with
much better
people
off.
with so much less trauma symptoms.
Oh, yeah.
And you know, reconnecting with joy and reconnecting with purpose and being, you know, wonderful members of society would detrimentally impact the pharmaceutical revenue.
1,000%. And so there's two other big components here that's just magical almost with ibogaine. This stuff regrows the white matter in the brain. So ibogaine, what they're finding now, ibogaine is not just treating symptoms for like Parkinson's disease.
Okay.
It's curing Parkinson's disease.
What?
It's not. Yes, it is not just. It is not just treating the symptom.
And it's still Schedule 1 illegal.
Well, yes, it is. In the psychedelic space, you know, people know, you know, cannabis is a psychedelic.
Right. Right.
Mushrooms, you know, ayahuasca, the peyote. You know, you've heard of all these things. Ibogaine's more intense than all of them. And it is not a joke. That needs to be administered in a clinical setting.
Right.
You know, it has to. You know, it's got cardiotoxic effects, which they can simply, you know, account for by, you know,
Monitoring you, right?
putting in magnesium. It cuts that and it nullifies the cardiotoxic effect.
Sure.
But it is still Schedule 1. But that's what a weird paradox, man. Texas led the way, and that was accomplished by the veterans.
Wow.
That was the work of primarily, number one, our dear good friend, you know, Mr. Brian Hubbard, who we've been working with for the last several years.
Yeah, I remember him on Joe Rogan. It was very, very compelling.
Yes, if you have not seen that episode of
There he
Brian
is.
and Joe Rogan, check it out, folks. It is Brian is probably the best speaker I have ever heard, like hands down. I can't even think of anybody close.
Yeah.
Maybe Carlos Duran.
He's very charismatic.
This guy is amazing, but he was leading that effort. But you know, Brian's not a veteran himself, but he was, you know, where this thing got championed from was from Veterans Exploring Therapeutic Solutions, right? That's Marcus and Amber Capone's group.
Okay.
They worked with Brian. You've got several veterans in Congress out of Texas that really threw in with that and threw their weight behind that. So yeah, now on one hand, CBD that does squat psychoactively.
Sure.
Bad and illegal because little Timmy might get into your do 3 CBDs and go into a psychosis and throw themselves in front of a train, which is ridiculous. But that's the sort of stuff they're talking.
Yeah.
But hey, we'll do the most powerful psychedelic on planet Earth and fund that.
Well, I don't think that
They don't understand.
Well, the alcohol strategy guys decided to strategically ignore the ibogaine thing because it's going to affect a small percentage of the
I just don't think
population.
it was I don't think they understood what it was.
Yeah, and then the CBD thing does impact their revenues,
Yeah.
and so they're going to shut down the access
well,
to that plant.
Look, ibogaine's going to absolutely impact them because that's going to break your addiction, whether it's nicotine, whether
Sure.
it's alcohol, whether it's heroin.
But the amount of folks that you can put through ibogaine treatment is like a small amount, right? You can't put thousands of. It's not like CBD where you can just give it to hundreds of thousands of people.
Yeah, it's not anything
It's
that's going to be
very.
that.
You see what I'm saying? So
but-
it doesn't impact their. But yeah, of course.
But here's
after,
where it does. It does impact a lot. And who it's really going to hammer is the pharmaceutical folks because, like, where Brian Hubbard got his start was he was the Kentucky commissioner that was charged with solving for the opioid abatement. Like, what's going to allow for that? What's going to get? Because man, Kentucky got smashed with
Lots of
opioids.
deaths.
That's
lots
the worst.
Of overdoses.
The Sackler family, all that stuff. That was the worst ground zero of the country. The whole west, you know, or the eastern part of Kentucky, coal mines, all that stuff from Appalachia.
Mm-hmm.
And they were just force-fed these opioids. And, you know, the crisis spiraled out of control. So Brian was charged with finding a solution from that. He found ibogaine. He championed that. Went through all the steps. Did all the due diligence. Even went and sat with it himself, with his wife, and brought that knowledge back. And It was rejected, and so the commission ended up deciding that that was not going to be a good fit. Instead, they needed to go with Suboxone, which happens to be
Big pharma.
another opioid. So
Yeah.
we're going to solve the opioid crisis by giving you more opioids.
Yeah.
It's just outrageous. But
Well, it protects revenue.
it does, because what happens with the Ibogaine is again that you can treat Ibogaine for around $10,000 to $15,000. You can take a hardcore heroin addict, one-time administration, 88% efficacy, no withdrawals, no detoxing type fallout from that. Of course, Ibogaine's not a joke. That's a rough ride. Like you're hooked up to the monitors and IVs and all that, but once you get through it, you're good. And that is, something that they can do in like 72 hours, and for the cost of like $10,000 to $15,000. Where
people go to these $50,000 rehabs and then relapse immediately, and their family is just funding all of these rehabs.
That's exactly right. The cost is that's where we get into the proof in the pudding, right? Because the average treatment cost for someone on and traditional means of what we're using now are clinical evidence type based methods. It's around. I don't have those numbers specifically committed to memory, so I'm loath to give them and misspeak. But it's tens of thousands per time, and the average person's going to do that like 13 times on the relapse.
So this is an incredible deal.
Yeah, you can spend 10 grand and heal someone, or you can spend hundreds of thousands of dollars and keep them in this weird cycle.
But that hundreds of thousands of dollars for those different rehabs and insurance companies, that's revenue. So they they need to keep things the status quo.
Well, of course, so it's the same people that were feeding the opioids are now feeding them the other opioids, just called Suboxone. It's the same companies.
Yeah, and then they probably own rehabs in order to kind of keep the cycle and the revenue cycle running. Because
it's gross.
You've got these brilliant strategy folks that have figured all these different things out, right?
Right.
Well, I think it's great that Texas is moving forward with the $50 million for Ibogaine. I think that's a huge leap forward. And it dovetails on what we've been seeing from RFK. Has been doing a lot of announcements on fast tracking psychedelics. And he actually, I printed out a statement, and it was this line of therapeutics. Speaking about psychedelics, he says this line of therapeutics has tremendous advantage if given a clinical setting, and we are working very hard to make sure that happens within 12 months.
Yeah.
So he set a 12-month timeline. That's the Health Secretary, Robert F. Kennedy, and that's what he recently testified in front of Congress. And under Joe Biden, the FDA rejected MDMA, which was one of the first of these to come up.
That's right.
For treatment for post-traumatic stress disorder. And an MDA phase 3 randomized double-blind trial found that among people with severe PTSD, 86.5% of those in the therapy group achieved clinical meaningful results and improvement, and 71% no longer met criteria for PTSD.
That's right.
So similar to the Ibogaine thing, we're seeing true, remarkable, unbelievable changes in these people's lives for the positive.
Yes.
But yet it's being shut down.
That's right.
It was shut down by the last administration. And when you think about why these things are shut down, it goes back to that strategy room. There are brilliant folks trained at the top universities, masters, PhDs at the top universities in figuring out how to protect revenue.
Yeah, and they prey on the American public. We're good. Yeah. We're good people, man. I don't think that the average American is overly red or overly blue. I think we're all kind of purple.
True.
At the end of the day, and at least that's where I am. I'm pretty independent, but I'm an issue guy. But
this video you showed at the beginning is going after a Republican, and I've seen a lot of stuff where we're, in different states, depending on what the issue is, we'll call out a Democrat. Like
for sure.
we just are about veteran lives.
That's right. Yeah, we're not political at all in terms of partisanship. If Republicans are doing something stupid, then we're going to go after that. If Democrats are doing something stupid, we're going to go after that.
Yeah.
If Republicans are supporting something great, we're going to help them. And same with the Democrats.
Yeah.
It's about the issues, man. But this stuff it's gross. They are preying on predictable responses. They always package this stuff in terms of like, for the children, the children, we're putting fancy colors on packaging, and the kids want to take it, and it's for the children, and then at the same time, they try to turn it into a religious issue as well.
That's a brilliant, the guys in the strategy room are going to use every lever they have.
Oh, yeah.
So if they have a church lever, if they have a children lever, if they, any lever they have, they're going to utilize.
That's right.
We're going into September, which is Suicide Prevention Month across the world, and it's coming right up on us. And it's almost like we need a hashtag Veterans Lives Matter campaign or something, right? Because a lot of this is just at the expense of the veteran. It's protecting revenue for these, whether it's an alcohol distributor or a pharmaceutical distributor, or a rehab facility. It's just revenue protection.
Yeah.
And what that does is essentially locks in the status quo.
That's exactly it.
And they all reinforce each other, so that you get this subliminal messaging from society that, take your pills, don't question. Go drink go binge drink for any type of celebration. You're supposed to go and binge drink
some alcohol.
That's what Americans do, right? And it's just a subliminal messaging where when there's other plant alternatives presented, you've already been trained to not trust them.
Yeah.
But that's from the planet. Right. That is the most natural way. And in the results, the clinical results compared to the pharmaceuticals and alcohol, which we've seen suicide rates on the civilian side and the military side skyrocket, civilian side since COVID. So we've seen what full access to alcohol and pharmaceuticals is where it's leading us.
Oh yeah,
it's
a death chute, man.
Yeah, and
bumpers.
The data, 88% reduction in PTSD symptoms, 87% reduction in depression, 81% reduction in anxiety after one use.
Yeah,
I mean, this is just insane that these plants are able to help people heal, but in order to protect revenue, you have to maintain the status quo.
Well, it's weird whenever you work with nature that things tend to go well. And I mean, all anybody really has to do to understand the cannabis side of the issue is look into the endocannabinoid system in the human body.
Right.
We are literally designed to work with these things.
To work with CBD.
Yes.
CBD fits into a receptor in your brain that nothing else does. So it's clearly meant to be a help if needed,
And it is quite effective. I know whenever I have my weird little flare-ups, man, it's bad. Like it puts me in a wheelchair kind of bad.
Yeah, no, I've seen it. I've driven you around before. I know.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. And when that thing kicks off and there's just no other relief.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, man. That's where you go. And okay, I can get through that. And thank God. Because, I mean, I've been trapped in the thing where you go to the VA and they're like, and there you go to the urgent care clinic.
You got to go see this person. Then you got to go see this person.
Yeah.
And this person didn't sign off. So you now have to go back to that person.
Or you're a pill seeker, or you're this, or you're that. And it's just like every avenue's blocked to me. What's going on?
Yeah.
Well, but if you want to take these things over here, we can give you all those you want.
Sure.
Well, I've been down that road. Thanks. I'm good. I don't want to go back down that road again.
Totally.
So that's what that's some of the method or the why behind some of the stuff we do. And I know that's a little misunderstood in the community, but we're past the point of really giving a shit about people clutching pearls. Like, I get it. Everybody's got their sensitivities. Everybody's
people who are still
entitled to their opinions.
Yeah, there's a lot of veterans that are trained, trust the pharmaceuticals,
That's right.
Drink your alcohol. That's what society reinforces. And there's a lot of veterans that like to follow rules. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
And so they feel like if you deviate from the rules of society, then you're putting yourself in a dangerous position.
And they're entitled to follow all the rules. We're not telling anybody they have to take these things. We're just saying,
look at the data.
Man,
look at the data.
Can we please try?
I'm talking about scientific data. I'm not talking about our own made up data. I'm talking about scientific data that these folks that are doing Ibogaine and MDMA and have had 86% improvement in no longer meeting PTS criteria and all this stuff. These folks were on their way to become part of the 22 a day who are dying by suicide.
Exactly.
And they are now back thriving. And yet we still have a lot of folks that want to argue against these breakthrough treatments, Sure. And it's
and if it's not for you, it's not for you. That's totally fine. Nobody's bagging on that. It's just don't get in my way because, man, when I'm in that wheelchair, life sucks. And why am I not able to take a liquid under my tongue that will help me? It's crazy, man. But that's where we are. This world is polarized and tribalized, my friend.
That is totally true. And when we think about mental health in the veteran space and reducing the stigma, which is a lot of what you and I try to do by talking through a lot of our own mental health struggles and being vulnerable and stuff.
That's right.
I thought it was fascinating, and I applaud Illinois for being the first state that is actually mandating at every school in the state regular mental health screenings for kids age grades 3 to 12.
I'm scared of that.
Oh, you are? Okay.
Well, if it's anything like the VA, I mean, when we had we applied for the Fox grant for Irreverent Warriors, and part of the details on the Fox grant was, here's the conditions. You have to have the screening. And if you screen above a certain number, then Irreverent Warriors would not be allowed to even engage with them. We would have to turn people away. If you're having a bad day and you score too high on that suicidal ideation chart, and when you come in and step in, then we would have had to have said, sorry, we can't serve you. We have to refer you over to the VA's mental health department. And guess what you're going to get when you go there?
Yeah, no, yeah.
You're going to get more psychotropics.
The way the Fox grant was set up was initially for community organizations to be able to prevent suicide, but then bureaucrats at the VA switched it to become lead farming for the VA.
That's
so you
exactly
have to go
what it is.
find people. We're going to pay you not to actually prevent suicide in the way that IW does it. We're going to pay you a huge grant from the VA for you to go grab people that are not in the VA system and put them into the VA system.
That's exactly what it was, yes.
What I was thinking about with this mental health screening is that counselors and students and parents could all be or counselors, teachers, and parents could be all on the same page with helping kids that are having certain things, instead of them just being considered, you're a trouble, you're a problem, you get kicked out of school. I was looking at it more like the more education and the more people are talking about mental health symptoms and trauma healing earlier in life can lead to conversations much earlier, instead of when I was in school, if somebody was considered a problem child, I'm sure they were having a bunch of mental health things going on and a tough life at home. They were just thrown out of school and they were just told you're a piece of crap. And then guess what? They had that in their mind and they didn't, it was hard for them to take off.
Yeah,
right?
Somebody told you you're broken, so now you're broken.
Right. And so I feel like this is a step in the direction of saying this person has an anxiety issue, teaching them tools of how to deal with anxiety, and the parent to be aware that there's an anxiety issue, because the parent might not even understand and just think that it's a bad egg, right? And it also allows the teacher to hold that student accountable to, hey, remember your tools that we've taught you of dealing with anxiety. You know what I mean?
If they can keep it to that level, I'd love it.
Okay, that's what I was thinking.
I just don't trust any of these governmental anythings to do anything other than double down for the interests of Big Pharma.
I had a very optimistic mind when I read it, but now that you're bringing it up, I think we're on the same page. I think it does make me nervous. And then the other thing that I wanted to discuss is that VA therapists have been leaking, and this has been coming out in different stories, but VA therapists have been, here's one of the latest stories, but they are saying that they're being instructed to cap or terminate individual therapy sessions that they have scheduled due to staffing shortages.
Yes.
So this means that those who have relied on the pharmaceuticals and talk therapy through the VA are now being only given pharmaceuticals as an option. Only pharmaceuticals without any talk therapy or tools.
Yes.
And then on top of that, they're not allowed to access plant healing that the data shows is literally curing PTSD and addiction.
And here is the crazy little thing people don't think about. And we were involved in this past year. It's come up a couple of times before that, but I have personally done my best to squish several of these things as they come up, because we do get consulted sometimes when politicians are writing bills and
absolutely.
And what I've found, there's this weird go-to, and it's playing back to the pearl clutching, and it's trying to deflect and minimize that, because there's
when you say pearl clutching, you mean people that are protecting and defending the status quo?
No, I'm talking about the great Aunt Molly who hears about the 5 marijuanas and little Timmy getting into a psychosis and throwing himself in front of her.
Okay.
Oh, they grab their pearls,
Yeah, got it.
It's nonsense. But any of these legislative bills that we've seen over and over and over and over and over again, if they're going to do, say, for studies on psilocybin, and they're going to use a cohort, first off, for veterans, only veterans can participate in the, well, why? Why not cops? Why not firefighters? Why not nurses? What about all these people that are having crazy amounts of real world trauma
Sure.
daily
Sure.
that are probably, when you put the full aggregate together, they could probably blow any veteran away in terms of just horrible stuff they've been subjected
a city
to.
copper firefighter, 20-year city copper firefighter, 100%.
Yeah, and that need is so desperate there. So, but anyhow, number one, they box those folks out, and it's okay. We're going to do this veteran cohort, and then in order to participate or access, like even if they go through the studies and this is good, the way they write the language in the bill, you have to have exhausted all other opportunities and available modalities.
Wow.
So they're literally telling you have to go through the system and get on these head meds that have a side effect of increasing your suicidal ideation.
This is terrifying. In order to access the
Yes.
psychedelic therapy, you
Yes.
have to go through.
Yes. It has to be the last resort. You've already exhausted. So basically, they're saying you have to go play Russian roulette 29,000 times. However many
Those
days.
medications increase suicidal ideation.
Right.
When you're trying to,
Yeah.
when you're going on and off of them to try to figure out which one works and all that,
Yes.
things get way darker.
Well, it can, and it doesn't for everybody. But what we do know is that for mild to moderate cases, these psychotropic meds are as effective as a placebo. They don't really show any efficacy or shine until they are at some pretty severe levels where you're talking like institutionalization type levels. Then it's good you need that tranquilizer to numb down. And not everybody's going to have a really bad reaction. I don't know if there's genetic predisposition that goes along with that or what, but the horror cases are plenty, case studies to look at that.
That's my experience.
Yeah, mine as well. And if you are so unfortunate as to have that, then that's going to be a bad ride. And they're going to want you to go through that and adjust your meds and adjust all the other meds and try this modality. And if you can tread water and not kill yourself long enough to get through there, now you can access this thing that, hey, by the way, has an 88%
success rate right out of the gate. Right. And speaking of success rates and things that work in plants and alternative therapies, let's end on the Grunt Style Foundation upcoming integration retreat.
Yeah, that's what it's all about,
September 12th, right? And here outside of St. Louis in Troy, Missouri at Quiver River State Park. Tell us what all is coming. I know it's the be all end all of networking within the holistic healing veteran space.
I think so. We've got one hell of a stable of incredible practitioners there. And we're adding new folks every time, all the time. This is our second year with it. The whole concept is to present as many different modalities and disciplines as instructed by world-class practitioners of their art and their science. We bring them in, and you get basically an hour and a half just learning. And some of these classes are like instructional, where it's like a small group dialogue where you engage and talk. And then with the instructor, others are workshops and experiential. On the screen, I see we're in the Nippy Sweat Lodge there, where we have Jalen Garnett and the brothers from Pine Ridge Reservation come out, the Lakota.
That was so good for my anxiety. That was so helpful for my anxiety and being able to experience a panic attack, but almost view it in the third person objectively and be able to kind of hold my own hand through it within that sweat lodge. It was incredible.
It's
experience.
intense.
Incredible experience.
And we're doing the Sacred Pipe ceremony this year as well at Integration. So first night will be on Friday night, we'll be doing the Nippy Sweat Lodge, and then Saturday night we'll be doing the Sacred Pipe. And we've got several other ceremonial offerings that are going to be going on through the event. But everything from horses to Japanese incense senseis and Tai Chi and Qigong to horse equine therapy, vibroacoustic technology, Bufo, combo, ayahuasca, breathwork, guided hypnosis meditations, cold plunges, nutritional value of plants and food, different foods. And we're bringing up the Second Chance Smoker team up from Memphis.
Barbecue guys. Yeah. Those guys are like award-winning Tennessee barbecue guys.
And I'm not even being silly, man. Like
they don't
best barbecue I've ever had.
Absolutely. They know what they're doing.
Absolutely.
They know what they're doing. Shout out to Brad Bell and that team down there.
Yeah, man. You guys are amazing, and I cannot wait.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Well, we look forward to it. And I know for the next 2 weeks, we're going to be off with the podcast because we're doing these different retreats and modalities. So Hey, it's always fun, and thank you everybody for joining us today. And I hope that you have a wonderful weekend and enjoy beautiful weather if you have it like we do in St. Louis.
Yeah, and I'm sorry in advance for all the bad weather coming over the next 2 weeks. I'm convinced that it's the podcast. So if you want good weather, tune in every Friday at noon here at the old Grunt Style Foundation and the Irreverent Warriors social media platforms.
That's
and
right.
if you want a ticket for integration, you can go over to gruntstylefoundation.org. And then we got a link right there on the main landing page. It'll take you over to where you get the tickets. And tickets are, if you want to come for the day, I think they're $33 or $30 for the day. And we have meal passes, $50 for the whole weekend. We'll feed you all that amazing barbecue. And if you want to stay for the whole weekend and do everything and stay in the cabins with us, that's $100 for the whole weekend. And if you want to volunteer, we do have some volunteer options available that reduce that cost a little bit.
Well, I know there's a lot of retreats out there that are $5,000. So this sounds like a ridiculous good deal.
It is a ridiculous good deal. Yeah. And it's what we're doing here is really, this is our second year. So we're really trying to get this as like the part 2 of last year's pilot is what we're doing.
Awesome.
Because, drum roll please, for Irreverent Warriors, we are wanting to take this thing on the road. And if you're an Irreverent Warrior chapter or a VFW post or just somebody out in your area and you'd love to have this kind of event come to your neighborhood, we'll bring it to you. We're going to stand that up. We're going to start unrolling this program and get this thing going around the country and trying to get us to as many people as we can.
Great. Love it.
So,
yeah, education. Just exposing people to other alternatives outside of pharmaceuticals.
We got to break those pearls, man, and get people, at least open to hearing the message, or at least be open-minded enough to go, maybe I don't know everything about everything.
Yeah, the status quo is killing people in droves. So let's get creative.
Absolutely.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.
We'll take care, man. We'll see everybody next time. Stay waxy.
Absolutely.